Good day to everybody. My name is Roger Mazzella, and I've been part of the product team here at the Qt Company for almost 6 years. I'm very privileged to be giving another talk at a Qt World Summit. Today's talk, I'm going to focus on how does Qt help you transform your business, and namely, those strategy goals you have from a corporate strategy standpoint and revenue goals. We talk about Qt in the context of, building great applications, building great devices, very modern, very reliable. We focus on, you know, um, the types of products you can build and the features and the functionalities and the ease of use and all that kind of good stuff. And you've probably heard a lot about that in other sessions in this year's Qt World Summit, as you had probably from years back. What I'd like to do with this session is take kind of a step back, look at things from kind of more of a 30, 40,000 foot view and you know, how in leveraging Qt and using Qt to build these great applications, to build these great devices, how can it drive those corporate strategy initiatives? How can it drive your revenue goals? Um, and we're going to talk about that a little bit today. So, the four areas, and these four areas are certainly not the only places, but these are just four examples that I talk about very frequently with our customers and our partners as we're talking about Qt from more of a business standpoint rather than from a technical standpoint. So, with all the great sessions that are going on in this summit, you probably have maybe sat in sessions for Design Studio and Qt for MCU, but we're going to take a little bit of a different look at it with my session today. So first area we'll look at and kind of pick apart and deconstruct is, providing that visibility for every stakeholder across the entire development workflow. And we're going to focus on how Qt Design Studio can drive that. Next, we'll look at driving modern innovation without increasing cost of goods. And there we'll take a little focus and talk about Qt for MCU and how that can help, especially in some specific use cases in industry initiatives. And then third, we're going to talk about how you could differentiate your offering with increased values for device owners and end users, through monetization, through creating these kind of new revenue streams, and we'll focus on the Qt digital advertising solution for that. And then finally, especially those of you who have been working with Qt for numerous years or have known about Qt, we always talk about, Qt's cross-platform capabilities. And a lot of times you think about, or many people, when we talk about that, think about a multi-platform. We're not going to look at the multi-platform play. We're going to look a little bit more at how does the cross-platform capabilities in Qt help drive future-proofing your device and applications, so that what you build now and what you build down the line is still very easy, very low cost, low maintenance, low overhead. And so we'll look at that as well. So first, sitting in numerous sessions and just the common theme, the common foundation for Qt is, at Qt, we are enabling companies to create industry-leading products that users love. And that doesn't change. So if we keep in mind that, yes, the big picture is, yes, we're enabling companies to create these great products, to create these great devices, these great apps, and user adoption, user appreciation, and the ease of use and the enjoyment and the intuitiveness of the product, that products that you can build with Qt is also very important. So that's the main cornerstone of what we're doing here at Qt. But then let's look at, again, how does that kind of extend itself and help with these kind of top line goals that we want to talk about today. So first, let's take a look at Design Studio. Again, many of you have probably sat in sessions that have talked about Design Studio or Design Studio specific sessions. I'm not going to reiterate as much what they talked about in the previous. I will, kind of set the stage a little bit in case folks have not sat for these other sessions, but then take this kind of in a different direction. So when we look at Design Studio, when you look at that tool, how can one now take this tool and drive visibility and collaboration for every stakeholder across the entire development workflow? See, when Design Studio was first kind of conceived and first developed, we're really focused on that fuzzy front end. The front end of development where the designer and the developer really need, kind of a great synchronous workflow between them, because many times what the graphical artists design and draw doesn't really reflect itself on the screen. Because when the design gets handed off to the coder, does the coder design every box in kind of a pixel perfect way to the way it was drawn, maybe in some of your great graphical tools and graphical design assets? No, there might not be a match. So that iteration in the fuzzy front end part of development takes a long time in order to get those designs, kind of, into the code, so to speak, and displayed on the screen. And then every change may need that iteration as well. So Design Studio certainly drives a more efficient workflow between the designer and the developer. And for the last few years that Design Studio has been available, yes, that has been the theme, and it's been really well received by our customers and folks that are looking to use Qt. But when you look at this and you say, well, gee, there's other parts of that designer, that development workflow that are not just the designer and developer here, but there are other stakeholders. Can we take Design Studio and can we extend its use to these other stakeholders along that workflow? So there are certainly challenges that we have answered when designing products. Tools for different design phases are fragmented. When you look at the designer and the developer, yes, there are different concept designs and prototypes and production quality implementation. All this is done in various tools, and those tools might not talk to each other really well. And it's difficult to reuse those components between the phases. Well, and again, we're only talking about design and development phase. Now extend that to other phases down the development workflow. Boy, you even complicate that challenge even more. And then that makes a prolonged, time to market, which increases those production costs. So when we're talking about the designer developer area and the iteration that has to be done to make sure that what's being displayed on the screen matches what is being designed, developed in those graphical tools, well, and then the changes cause that iteration. Now, think about having to iterate even more as we go down the workflow with these other stakeholders being involved. Boy, that will, increase the length of the workflow, the time to get things done, more iteration, more work, and then that will drive up costs. And then that longer time to market, gee, what was a great idea maybe in the beginning, maybe gets old and kind of feels a little bit outdated by the time it gets designed in and the product hits the market. So another advantage is that these ideas are fresh and modern. They don't get outdated as we're trying to figure out how to kind of develop the product. So yes, we're trying to drive more efficient workflows, and in our message to our users, our customers, our partners, the industry, is that workflow being more efficient really reaps these kind of dividends that you see here. But then add that to the fact that we're only initially looking at designer developer. Let's look at the rest of the workflow and see how we can even have those great value that with just the fuzzy front end and extend that across other stakeholders. So when I was hired to Qt, I have 25 years in the med tech industry. That's where my background is. I still do help manage the product in the medical industry. So I wanted to I thought a really good example was taking kind of the typical medical device development workflow, because this is one area where I see, multiple different stakeholders, and not maybe the traditional stakeholders that we use Design Studio could have an advantage in leveraging what Design Studio can do and help create those efficiencies across the entire workflow you see here. So this is a typical medical device development workflow. There are 4 phases from phase 0 to phase 3. You see that, in phase 0, there's kind of the product definition. When we get to phase 1, we're doing the detailed design and development. Then we're going to transfer that to manufacturing in phase 2, and then phase 3 comes in manufacturing, where obviously Qt is not really working in the manufacturing area. So we're looking at Design Studio in the phase 0 to phase 1 area, and then potentially some of the phase 2 area, because that'll be affected. Now, who are the stakeholders? Well, if you look on the left there, you have product development, usability engineering, technology development, quality management, regulatory support, and then obviously your manufacturing activities. Where I see, this being extended from the designer developer to other stakeholders are the folks in usability engineering and quality and regulatory. So what happens here is that we could take something that is being developed in the napkin sketch and the fuzzy front end that is phase 0. But the usability engineers, their job in the medical industry is to make sure that whatever is designed, the user experience, is intuitive and it can be used as intended. So what the product development phase and some of the clinical engineering and some of the testing and quality processes that are in place really test that the product works as intended. So when we look at works as intended, used as intended, let's take that for a second. So when we say something works as intended, let's think of an infusion pump, right? The infusion pump is the thing that carries the IV bag. There might be medication in that bag, saline, whatnot, morphine, painkiller type in that bag. And obviously it has to be done at a certain volume, at a certain rate. And so when you program that, that drug delivery device, that infusion pump, what you're setting is that now delivering the drug or the medicine in the proper flow rate with the proper amount and the proper volume, that is working as intended. Now, used as intended, that nurse, that doctor, that operator, when they come in, are they now setting it? Is it intuitive enough for them to look and go, okay, I know how to set the right flow rate. I know how to set the right volume that's in there. I know how to then start the pump so that it's safe for the patient and everything is working as intended because I'm setting up and I'm using it as intended. That's where the usability engineering comes in. And in the medical industry, there are strict testing and protocols to do kind of your human factors and your usability testing. Now, typically the usability testing, as you can see, is done down in phase 1, where you have the alpha and beta validation that goes into your clinical study. But what happens when they get involved, and you want to get them involved, as you can see, in phase 0, when you start looking at the end user concept evaluation? Wouldn't that be better to have kind of a solution that can simulate or show you what the early stages of that user experience might be? Yes, and the way they're doing it now is, and I know I've been involved with things in the medical industry and outside the medical industry, where you have these rudimentary kind of PDF flip books, or you even can put these sticky notes on there, or these kind of napkin drawings, or these drawings that you're doing in Sketch and in Figma, and kind of pasting them up and trying to give that perspective for the user, say, oh, a button would be here, a button would be there. But what if you had a better way to communicate that and to iterate that? Well, we're saying that Design Studio can be that tool. So giving access to your usability engineers and your quality engineers and your regulatory folks who are not certifying the device, but having the device cleared for market, and all these different these different ministries of health across the world, like the US FDA, like the EU, like the Brazil Health and Health Canada and others, giving them early access to even see these designs and have them comment. Well, gee, we had a different product that had a button in that area and it just didn't work that way, or we don't want it that color. The contrast is not there. So they can see early on what the initial concepts are, and even be able to run some informal testing with some end users that actually looks like, either, maybe on a laptop, or you could put it on a tablet, or you can target. And that's the beauty of Design Studio, is you could take the code that continues to be generated as you're loading in those design elements, right? The Figma, the Sketch, the Photoshop files, and you can early and often generate the code and see how it looks on the target device. And you can actually have these end users, instead of using these archaic methods or trying to visualize what the user experience would be from these different drawings and sketch and archaic ways you can kind of paste things around. Now you're looking at it on a digital screen. Okay, maybe it's early, maybe it's rudimentary, but at least you start getting that feel for it. And so including these stakeholders that you see early, really can have an advantage and get you to market quicker and get you to the areas where you're going to be doing your clinical testing, where you're doing your usability testing, where you're doing some of your quality and regulatory, overviews and testing. As you get to the end of phase one, because you've done these iterations early and often, and maybe, in some of these, very early concepts, that once you get to the end of phase one, things are pretty locked in. You have a good idea that the design that you're going to test is going to work. And so when you look at the development processes here, you can see that, in the green are all the kind of inputs that these different groups are doing, or the tasks that these different groups are doing, from, establishing what the user needs to talking what the design input is and the design processes, and, this feedback or review. And, so these are all the kinds of tasks. And then the blue are the things that are going to be created from these different tasks. You're going to have your ethnographic user research, your clinical requirements, your technical requirements. These are all the kind of the things that fall out of this kind of iteration, this development process. And these are the things that need to be created. Well, with all of these, that it's not just in a straight line like in the last graph, that there's all these people kind of in these groups kind of collaborating together, and it kind of can get messy like this. Something like Design Studio can keep everybody on the same platform, looking at the same type of designs and seeing how those designs evolve as, input is being given, and some of these, documentation and deliverables are being created. So again, it's all about collaboration, driving more visibility and better collaboration with every stakeholder across the design phases, so that, designers, developers, usability engineers, quality engineers, regulatory staff can all collaborate, speak the same language, work off the same designs, and be able to drive more efficiently this entire workflow so that you can get to market faster. So next kind of milestone or area we want to look at is Qt for MCU. So how does one drive modern innovation without increasing cost? And so in certain industries, they're commoditized, right? The cost of goods is very important. And we're saying that, hey, there are options to not be on that high-powered kind of chip or board or MPU, but let's look at MCU. Is that a good alternative? Because we can deliver a modern user experience, but not at the cost that would be with some of these higher, higher level type of hardware. So again, I know people have been in other talks. Just want to set the stage of what Qt for MCU is, just as a summary. It's reusing and deploying the same QML-based UI across wide ranges of embedded devices, now from low to high end. Right, so we can go to the very low end. Again, independence from hardware vendors. We have, the code can work on numerous different boards and chipsets, and really, we're looking at ultimate performance, as ultimate as can be on this tiny footprint. And some of the value here that we're looking at is, achieving smartphone-like UX on very low-end hardware. There's out-of-the-box support. Reference indications on bare metal and free RTOS, which is very popular for MCU. And, you can leverage both Qt Design Studio that we just talked about and Qt Creator for the development on Qt for MCU. So again, let's look at an industry example of what we're talking about, and let's set the stage. So I've worked in the fitness industry as well. When I was a product manager for cardio equipment, cardiovascular equipment like treadmills and bikes and ellipticals, and really we were focused on the user experience because the digital experience is the key to exerciser adoption and the bottom line. So let's talk about that for a second. When the most of the people out there in going to the gym and having great healthy habits, a lot of people are getting that from their doctor, let's say, and saying, gee, you got to work out more. You're sedentary too much in the office or whatnot. So when a person kind of gets themselves, going to the gym and we're going to go do it and we're going to get ourselves healthy, do they really look at the treadmills and say, the belt on that treadmill is not as good as the belt on that treadmill. And, the motor is kind of a little bit faster on this one. No, for the bulk of the exercise. Now, we're not talking about the athletes and kind of the folks that are the kind of low percentage number of people that are there and going on your marathon runners and stuff like that. We're not looking at that. Sure, those more trained athletes could look at a treadmill and go, gee, I like the belt on this one or the performance. But for the general exerciser, get on the treadmill and get moving. So what differentiates the treadmills that the general exerciser will get on? It's the user experience. So you have a great user experience, especially people who don't want to go and get on that treadmill and I hate that hamster wheel. And, it's, just trying to get them to exercise. Well, if they have a pleasant user experience, watching their Netflix or, maybe having some great kind of graphics there to talk about their exercise and great metrics to show how well they're doing, that adoption will be more and people would want to exercise on that. So this can differentiate, the different types of treadmills from the user experience. But the problem is you go to a lot of these, especially the big box gyms, and they're price competitive. These gyms where you could pay $10 a month just to get people in the door. The low barrier to entry, might be cost, right? So okay, let's bring that cost down. Well, you can't have and outfit your gym with premium equipment if you're being cost conscious, especially when you're building cardio decks and cardio theaters that have 100 or more types of piece of cardio equipment, like when you work into one of these big box gyms. So what happens is that these type of bigger gyms are very cost conscious because they're buying a lot and they have a low cost barrier to entry for their members. Well, then their cardio products, they're buying their budget brand, right? The fitness equipment manufacturers have different levels. They have a kind of a budget brand, kind of a mid-level standard brand, and then their premium brand. Well, the budget cardio products still look like this. They still look like something from the 90s, Would I be encouraged as an exerciser, be excited to get on and look at, these things that look like, the old Atari 2600 graphics or something? No. I want something better. But what does better mean? Better could mean more cost. So we're still partying like it's 1999 to when we're talking about the 90s and talk about one of my favorite artists from the 90s. Yeah, we're still partying like it's 1999. Here's your 3 levels of equipment here. Your budget brand to the left is that LED experience. Why? Low cost. Now that middle brand could have a digital screen on it, sure, because the price point is a little bit more, but you still have kind of this hybrid environment. And then when you go to the ultra premium, and I know it doesn't show it here, I should have used pretty much a better screen for that. But think of this as being a full touch screen with no buttons, right? Now you're running your Netflix and stuff. How do we elevate that budget brand? Well, it's 2022, party over, out of time. We're gonna create digital experiences from budget brand all the way up to the premium band and not hit your cost of goods, keeping these fitness equipment manufacturers cost competitive. And boy, would it be a differentiator to see I can have a product with a digital experience at a low price point versus going to that LED screen. Where do you think the exercisers are going to go? They're going to go to the more modern experience. They're going to go to gyms that seem more modern, seem more up to date. So the product itself is differentiated from all those kind of archaic and older looking type of experiences. So you can imagine walking into a gym and not having these different types of LED screens and things that look, like I said, very 1990s-ish. And we have a very modern experience where people come to the gym and go, wow, I feel like I'm in the future, right? I feel like I have this great, cool technology, and this is going to be making my exercise experience more enjoyable, right? And again, doing it where the MCU board and the board driving the LED, pretty cost comparable versus the LED board and that board that's going to deliver the streaming content, right? So although the MCU is not going to deliver that premium experience, the experience will be truncated, as far as not having a lot of that streaming content, but still it's digital. Still it looks modern. And still you can have a budget brand that is mindful of cost, but still delivers a great, innovative experience, even if the experience is less than your premium experience. You're still keeping that budget brand kind of functionality. So then you have all these digital experiences, and we started pitching this to some different fitness equipment manufacturers. Said, well, this is great, but now with all of these different digital screens, now there's a huge burden on UI UX testing. Well, as we know, Qt has now a QA automated testing tools to relieve this kind of burden on UI UX testing. So, we could deliver better experiences and deliver the testing so that now we're not creating a second challenge, but the QA testing tools can relieve that burden. And, I give this example in the fitness industry, but the consumer industry has many examples. Hospitality industry has many examples of, trying to keep those costs of goods low, but still delivering that very modern experience. So let's look at the next, kind of pillar in the four areas that I want to speak about having Qt transforming your business. So as many of you probably know, we released the Qt digital advertising solution at the beginning of this year. And so, this was actually a brainchild of mine. I was asked by my executives to, hey, let's think of some solutions we can build with Qt that are outside the normal kind of roadmap and product development. And, in going down a bunch of different rabbit holes and trying to think about, this type of solution, I came to the point where I said, well, wait a second. We're allowing our customers to build great applications with Qt, and understanding that 95% of all of these applications from your popular app stores are downloaded free. How are application developers monetizing, making revenue from the apps that they build? Well, it's through digital advertising. So we're giving them a framework to develop these apps. We're not giving an opportunity to monetize. We need to do something natively. And then how do we extend that out to not just have it for applications, but can we apply this and actually monetize, embedded devices? They're monetizing embedded devices now. You see the big billboards on the side of, the roadway, that they're not the paper billboards anymore. They get changed every 6 months or whatever. Now you have digital billboards that are cycling through advertisements every couple of minutes. Well, that is an embedded digital advertising play. Can we bring that down to the device? And that's what we're doing here at Qt. So we're allowing you to generate these new revenue streams and business models from a single software development platform. And again, it works on embedded devices, desktops, tablets, smartphones. Everywhere you can build Qt, you can leverage digital advertising. And my colleague Joe Stribble gave a really nice talk on this. If you weren't able to sit for it, I would recommend sitting on that to get into more of the details. But let's go ahead and still go down the path of what we're talking about today, about having this kind of transform your business strategies and your revenue. So digital advertising use cases. I'm not saying that digital advertising should be everywhere. Qt is across 70 industries. But in the mobile side, gaming apps, retail consumer apps, e-commerce apps, entertainment streaming apps, hospitality and travel apps, and fitness apps, all could leverage digital advertising and much more. Sure, maybe industrial automation apps where it's kind of a companion app to control different things from an app, machinery, probably not digital advertising, but things that are consumer facing, absolutely. And on the embedded side, I talked about developing medical devices with Qt. Gee, if I was a patient and I was in the hospital and I had a patient monitor on me, would I want, advertisements for the doctor or the nurse as they are kind of checking in on me? Probably not. But There are different use cases in embedded, like elevators and vending machines, kiosks, smart mobility, kiosk games, fitness, audio infotainment, EV chargers, and more. And then when you get to the hybrid situation, now we're looking at Qt and our cross-platform capabilities. Well, shoot, if you have, a companion app to that embedded device in these different areas, well, then the advertisement could be on the companion app, and the advertisement could be on the embedded device as well. So again, just trying to set the stage. Don't want to go too deep into this. Again, some great talks about the digital advertising solution. I'll go much deeper into this. But let's look at how the digital advertising and implementing this type of solution can differentiate your offering with increased value for device owners and end users. So when we look at the fitness industry, when we talk about, a device, a console without digital advertising, well, I'm just on a treadmill, on the hamster wheel, right? Sure, the gyms need good equipment to lure people in and have a great membership base. And wow, we got great equipment there. But revenue is based on their membership. Well, now with digital advertising, you have a revenue generator. Now you're going to generate revenue from the advertising that's on that screen, and you can cross promote in your property. So, think about someone getting done with their work and they said, hey, you met your fitness goal today. Get 20% off at the Shake Shop. So what we're doing here is, the fitness equipment manufacturer will get paid the revenue dollars. From there, that fitness equipment manufacturer can then decide, do I subsidize my investments and maybe give a different type of win to the gyms and the facilities that are buying my equipment? Do I give all of the digital advertising revenue to that gym and facility and have an advantage there because, well, gee, they're going to buy my treadmill that can make them money, or they buy a treadmill that's going to be a hamster wheel. Which one are they going to buy? Sure, the one that subsidizes them, right? Or do we do a share? Do we share that and subsidize our investment as the fitness equipment manufacturer and help, create revenue streams for the facility? So you have these things where it's not just about the advertising dollars themselves, but the strategy around which you can incentivize your customers and differentiate your product and make your product much, much more attractive to buy. Similar in the gaming industry. So when you look at these big games, we don't have the big arcades like we used to when we were kids with the big, cabinets, right? And you stack the quarters on there. Now, home video gaming is popular, but we still have these type of big screen video gaming in casinos and in the gaming industry. And without digital advertising, well, what are they making? They're just making the gambling revenue stream, right? But with digital advertising, now you're adding to the gambling revenue stream an ad revenue stream, right? And again, you could cross promote the property. Hey, I'm in the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino here in this picture. Well, gee, the steakhouse has got a special. Or hey, if I gamble, $1,000, I get 20%, 10%, 5% off at the steakhouse or something like that. So there's that property cross promotion there as well. When you look at kiosks, I look at kiosks in two different ways. We got informational kiosks, something that will tell you directions in, let's say, a shopping mall, or you have the self-service kiosk, like at your popular fast food restaurants. So without digital advertising, the info kiosk is zero revenue. It's helping people out with information and where to go, right? But the self-service kiosk is just a product revenue. It's making it easier for people to order product, that burger, that shake, and that's the product revenue they're going to get. They're not making any additional revenue off the kiosk. But with digital advertising, you add a revenue stream to the informational kiosk. Now you're actually making revenue through ad revenue. And with the self-service kiosk, you've got the product revenue, you've got the ad revenue, and again, you can cross promote. You can cross promote with brand partnerships. I believe McDonald's has a brand partnership with Coca-Cola. Well, do they have this kind of Coke promotion that they could run on their kiosk and make money from it? Yes, they can. And we can schedule that very, very, very strategically, with our solution. And as Joe, my colleague, probably explained in his talk, how you can manage and set that up to really have the contextual ads that you want on real estate like this without inappropriate ads or competitive ads or so forth. So there's very strategic ways you could put that advertising on there to maximize that dollar revenue stream and maximize the experience for users, right? I'm on a treadmill. If my wife was on a treadmill and she saw a Lululemon ad, boy, that would be contextual, So really zeroing in on not just the ads going up, but are the ads contextual to the user and helpful for the eyeballs on that screen? And then obviously EV charging is blowing up these days, right? More and more EV charging kiosks being, distributed across the globe, whether it be at convenience stores or your favorite shopping malls. And so without digital advertising, users will pay, a cost per charge, right? But with the digital advertising, you can subsidize the user's cost. So say, hey, you watch these ads, maybe there's 20, 30, 40, 50% off your charge today because you saw these ads. And then there can be property cross promotion, because if this EV charger is, let's say, at a 7-Eleven, it can promote the goods in the 7-Eleven to lure people who are charging their card to go into 7-Eleven and buy product, right? So lots of advantages. And these are the advantages that you as the equipment manufacturer can subsidize, again, your own investments, but then pay it forward where you're actually giving revenue streams to your end users and the facility owners and the people actually owning the devices themselves. Again, transferring that business and really driving some really good strategies and increasing revenue goals. And this is, we're just showing you, and I know Joe kind of put this up in his talk, that this is the type of money that you can make. It's not about each unit and what they can make per month, but when you have a fleet of units, this can exponentially grow, right? So when you look at EV charging stations and self-service kiosks and casino games and online gaming as examples, the type of monthly net revenue is great, but look what happens as you're deploying and over the average span of that device in the field. You're not talking about tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. You're talking about millions of dollars in revenue streams. And this is each type of product. Some really significant transformation going on here to your business when you're bringing in money like this. And also this can drive, with the digital advertising, we're starting to approach, in one case here, elevator manufacturing, right? So in the old elevator kind of use case, you'd have like the buttons that you see that were here in the 50s, 60s, 70s, then you get to the 80s and 90s and they have, oh, good, we're modernizing. We have this little LCD screen up there that tells you the floor you're on. And then, oh boy, we have this kind of digital screen that gives, let's say you're in a hotel when the happy hour is and what's going on at the restaurant. Well, now, if you reimagine, redesign and say, I want to throw digital advertising here, but I just don't want to put digital advertising on that screen. I want to combine everything using Qt in one digital experience to have the advertising, the floor controls, the displays for the floors. You have better brand identity and recognition. You're in more of a premium environment now. I am in a hotel in an elevator that is ultra modern, ultra futuristic. All of this is easy to update with changes because now it's all digital, and then it's easy to maintain. You're reducing the cost of hardware maintenance because now you don't have to maintain the buttons and the LCD screen. You maintain one digital screen. It's all there, and it just creates a lower burden to maintain all these things type of separately. So your support and your service is much easier here as well. And it's all driven through looking at digital concepts or digital advertising, driving better user environments. So the final thing is we want to talk about very quickly is future-proofing your development. So as you know, Qt can go across different operating systems, right? And Qt can go across different reference targets, right? Different boards. And you don't have to recode. If I go from, a Linux operating system, let's say, to a BlackBerry QNX operating system, I don't have to recode things if I go from an Intel chipset to an NVIDIA chipset, right? So as you're planning your roadmap, as you're planning your product evolution, you're not bound to the initial design that you do today. With Qt, you can future-proof your device because whatever you do now and whatever technology choices you make in the future, whether it be, like I said, operating systems, or whether it be different types of hardware or different platforms, single code base has you covered, right? So you do not have to worry about the recoding the UI UX or the user experience or whatever you develop in Qt does not have to be recoded. You're future proofing your devices, and you're not bound and held hostage to your initial design if 3, 4, 5 years later you want to make a change. So that becomes a very strategic initiative. And again, transform your business because now you have the opportunity to be, kind of OpenScape and have a lot of flexibility in your choices and a lot of options, right? You're not bound to certain design elements with Qt because you'd have to recode. The options are endless. So that's what I wanted to kind of cover in today's talk. I thank everybody for joining in, and now I'd like to open the floor for questions.